My name is Nasim Saleh. I'm a business application consultant in DAS8. So today we're gonna cover DAS, and we're going to talk about what's new in the DAS8 release. So today we have existing customers and we have some prospects. So we're going to do a little bit of both. So we're going to have a small introduction on DAS key features, what does it do, and we're going to view the new improvements that were done upon the new release. Okay, so just before starting, I just want to thank you all for attending this webinar. Just a small introduction about the GTS. So we're a company that was founded in 2004 by a team of ex-Oracle employees, and now we're covering the MENA region. We're focused in the project management and licenses sales and consulting, implementation, training, and after sales. We're focused in ERP, CX, HCM, business intelligence, EPM. We do implement DAS and ARC tools. We're the first Oracle partner in Lebanon and among the first in the Middle East, and we're also member in the Partner Advisory Board. These are our recent awards. So we were awarded as SaaS Partner of the Year in 2016, and Oracle Technology Partner in 2016, CX Cloud Partner of the Year in 2017, and Cloud First Partner of the Year for the MENA region in 2018. So let's just start with talking about what is DAS. DAS is a real-time reporting platform for JDE. So basically it uses the JDE credentials to access to the system, and it inherits the JDE security and permission. As I said, it's a real-time access reporting tool, and it's a read-only tool. So it uses the database from JDE. You cannot create and edit data while using DAS. As for the user experience, it is useful for functional users. It empowers these users because it's very flexible and easy to use, and they can benefit from readily available built-in templates and calculation, and it doesn't require much time to be learned, so the learning curve is actually minimal. The time for the installation is also minimal, and it works on all JDE models. So even if you don't have all of the models currently in your company, you will have readily available the full models on DAS for future uses. And it also works on custom objects. And while using DAS, you can analyze JDE data as well as other and external data. So you can fetch external data from Excel as well from other ERP systems. So what's new in DAS8? We had some improvements on the level of the dashboard visualization as well as the scheduler, and we had some improvements on the permissions and some security elements. We had some added calculations, and now you can create your custom calculations. We will see that during the demo. But most importantly, and I'm going to focus on the ProReport. This is a new feature that was released in DAS8. So basically, it's an advanced presentation tool, and it converts DAS, one or many DAS reports into complex report outputs. So we'll see that later on during the demo. So let's start. I'm gonna access to the system using my JDE credentials, and basically I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a report, a dashboard, as well as a ProReport. And just before starting, I'm going to show you some reports that we have prepared earlier. This is the employee business unit totals by company. So just to give you an overview, what can you do while using the DAS reporting tool? So this is the company overview. You have the weight per ethnicity, you have the pay grades, you have the employment status, the union, the benefits, etc. And so you can do a generic and for the level of the company, and you can create more specific ones for the ethnicity, for the pay grades, etc. So in this example, we're using the embedded Excel for these presentations. And as I said, you have different options for that. So you can use these embedded Excels, you can use the dashboards, and now you can use the ProReports. Another example is the total employee compensation in business data. So this is an example of one total compensation summary for one employee. And the use of this one is that you can automate sending the total compensation for the employee by using the bursting feature. So you can automate sending the compensation on a monthly basis, etc. So let's just start. This is the main interface. Over here you have a couple of tabs. I'm just going to speak about them real quickly. In my workspace, these are my reports that I have created. The public workspace are the reports that were shared and published to me by other users. The new tab allows you to create different types of reports. You can create, you can start from JDE tables. You can create your own ProReports, the dashboards, and you have some quick reports that are readily available so that you can start using them, so that you don't start from scratch, such as the income statement, the balance sheet, and the same for the fixed cost. Just to create a more simple example, these you can filter by different tabs. So you can filter by your own reports, the one that were published to you, or you can select all. So just if I want to just search by the JDE tables, for example, if I know the exact number of the table, I can write it over here. It's a Google-like search. Or I can just simply write the description of the report itself. So now that I have selected the table that I want to work on it, I can start with designing my own report. So I'm selecting the columns that I want to include. So just a simple selection, the company, the document number, the address number. So these are the columns that I want to include within my report. I can search for the description of the column, and I can always add additional ones once I finish. So it's a dynamic search. So you don't have to plan it and then you cannot edit it. It's very flexible and dynamic. So I'm getting some sample data. So now I have the company, gross open. I just want to add the date, the due date. You can drag and drop the columns just to change the order of the report. You can do some sorting. So just for this example, I want to sort by address number or by gross amount. I can sort by type and then by gross amount. So it depends on your requirements. I right click, and now I have different options, ascending or descending. And as I said, it has readily available calculation. So when you select the columns, you right click, you have different options. You have the quick calculation, which will allow you to quickly calculate the data. So over here I have my difference that I want to include. And as part of the release for the DAS8, some additional calculations were created, were added. So the ceiling, the log, you have the square root, etc. So some additional calculations were added. So this is one way to do it, the difference. You can rename the column. And actually, in this release, a new tab was added. It's the formula tab. So the use of this one is if you have a technical background and you want to create a complex formulas and it has embedded if functions and it has some complexity in it, now you can do that while using the formula. So it's the same function that I did earlier, but now if I double click on it, it will redirect me to the edit formula. So over here, I can build complex formulas. And what is very interesting is that the system will provide you with some validation on the formula. So if the formula that you have created, it's not correct, it will highlight in red that the formula will need work. And if you don't actually do that, just use the quick calculation. So now you can view the complex calculation within the edit calculation, and you can access to it and edit it if needed. Okay, so going back, supposedly that I want to know the overview in days. So I go to quick calculation, and on the date, I use today's date, and I go back again to quick calculation, date and date difference. This is the date difference in days. I can double click on it and I can convert it into months or hours or whatever value that I want to include. You can fetch some data from other tables as well as from external source data. So if I go and right click and go to calculation editor, I can look up for the field that I want from the other source table. So if I already know the reference of the table, I can click on it. I provide the target table and the filter criteria that I will use it for fetching the data. And I select what are the fields that I want to include. So for this example, I will include, for example, the city and the state. And I save and close. So now I have the city and the state for each address number. So the address number is a code, right? So if I don't know the description of the address number, I can simply double click on it. The system will automatically populate the description. I select the fields. I go back to the calculation, the quick calculation, and I can concatenate the other fields. So as you can see, it's very flexible and it's user-friendly. I can, supposedly that I want to group some columns depending on some criteria. I select them, right-click, go to group by columns. I can always remove these, so I can clear all groupings. And the same as the example that we saw earlier, you can design the embedded Excel sheets, pivot table, and graphical presentation by going to Design, Present Data to Excel. So this is one way that we can use it. I will show you the other ways. So this is the embedded Excel. I go to Insert Pivot Table and I start with designing my own reports. It's a drag and drop field, so you can specify what are the rows that you want to include, as well as the values that you want to view. So these are the sales by address number. You can view, for example, the sales by company. So it's up to you. It's a pivot table that you can use. You can create your own pivot charts. And over here, you can choose between the different types. You have some different options. So over here, you can change the type. You can rename, etc. So just for the use of time, I'm going to keep it brief. So now you have the data and you have the presentation and the report look. And in addition to that, while using the DAS as a reporting tool, you have readily available reports that you can benefit from. So I'm just getting some data for the receivable ledger, for example. Let me choose another one real quick. Okay, so if you right click and go to trending, you will view that you have some readily available reports that you can start. So for example, you have the aging, you have the top 10, the bottom, the monthly trend. So just let me choose one of these. So the aging, for example. So for each address number between today's date and the due date, for example, I want to sum my open amounts. So automatically the system will generate a template for the aging reports, but you can start from there and you can add the fields that you want to include. Okay, so this covers the DAS report creation, and after doing that, you can save it and you can share it to other users by publishing the report. And in addition to that, you can export it to Excel, to PDF, and you can automate sending the report to DAS users as well to non-JDE or DAS users. So let me save the report. So once it's saved, you can schedule the report to be sent to other users. So I will create a new task for a new schedule. And I will add the report that I have created, or any report just for that matter. And I will specify if I want to send it in PDF, CSV, Excel, etc. And this is where you will specify the frequency of sending the report. So you have different options. You can send it on a weekly basis, monthly. You can set the exact date for the first Monday of each month. So it depends. You can set that. And you can specify a starting and ending date or the number of occurrences that you want to include. And within the DAS8 release now, we have the iCalendar where you can edit the frequency that you have set, and you can build your custom and complex schedule depending on your needs. So now you have the option to do that. And for the distribution, you can select and specify the email of the persons that you want to send the report to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a GDE user. So you can send it to your colleagues within the company, and you can write a note, etc. Okay. So once you do that, you can right-click and send it, or you can wait until it's due. So going back to the interface, I will show you how to create a dashboard. So you go to New, Dashboard. You can select the report that you want to use. Okay. And you can select multiple reports. And now you can start with designing the graphical presentation of your data. So over here, you can drag and drop the values that you want to include. So this is the sales by company. You can add other charts. So you have different types of graphical presentation that you can use. So here, for example, I want to measure my open amount versus my total invoiced amount by address number, or you can set it to be by company, and then you drill down to be by address number. So you have the flexibility to do that. You can also create the graphical distribution of your sales on the map. So just now I'm choosing the map for the US, for example. Let's go back to the aging report itself. So let me add the state so that I can create the graphical distribution of my sales by state. Okay, so I'm going to calculation editor. And I'm populating the needed fields to fetch the data. So the key would be the address number. And for this example, I'm just going to include the state. So now going back to the report, I will use the state, and I will see the distribution of my amount. Okay, and within the map itself, you have different options. So you can change the color, you can change the legend, you can show the captions or edit the names. So the sales by state. And after you finish designing your report, you can make it dynamic. So you go to the data source, and you select multiple master filters. Once you do that, you will have dynamic graphs. So whenever you choose one value in one dashboard, the other values will change accordingly. So now that we have seen the DAS report, the embedded Excel, and the dashboards, I'm going to show you the Pro report. And for the dashboards, you can publish it to Mobi. So what is Mobi? It's presenting the reports that you have designed on DAS, so you can publish the dashboard as well as the Pro reports on the web. So once you publish the report, it will be displayed over here, and you can click on it to have a real-time view of your data. Okay. So I'm going to start building the Pro report through the Pro report designer. And over here, you select the report that you want to use. Or for example, if I want to create my customer aging, for example, I can So you can use the Pro report to get outputs from several DAS reports. So as you can see, I have selected the reports that I want to include. So you can include one or multiple DAS reports within the selection, and then you start with designing the report itself. So just to start with the design, I'm just going to create my headers. So this is the GTS header that I'm going to use. And within the properties, I can change the sizing to stretch the image itself. I would also include the logo of GTS. So the same for the sizing, I will stretch it. So as you can see, it's very simple. Okay, and now I can include the labels. So just, I want to include these are the fields that I want to start from them. So the customer, so it will include the number and description. And you have different formats that you can start from, or you can design your own. And you can copy existing labels to save some time. So I'm including the customer, the document type, the document number, as well as the open amount, and finally the days overdue in months. and you can change the size of the fields. You can align them. So it's very simple. So now that I have finished my labels, I can include the field. So you can use the same spacing for that. I will include also the document type. The document number. My open amount. And my overviews in months. And whenever you're designing, you can always review what you are designing, whether the value that are included are correct or not, by just clicking print preview. So I'm getting the data, I'm running my reports, and then I'm printing So now, as you can see, I have my values. I have the aging by customer, but there's some spacing between the customers. So I will go back to the designer to edit the design. So I will narrow down the detail, and I will include my footer and as well as the numbering for the pages. So again, I'm including my image. I'm changing the sizing. And I'm including the page numbering. So I'm editing the spacing. Okay, so in addition to that, you have some quick starts that you can benefit from. So you can create some group summaries and report summaries. So in this example, I want to include my open amount, total. You can change the font if you like. You can make it bold. And I also want to include a report summary. So as you can see, this is very flexible and easy to use. It's a drag and drop. And once I finish with the design, I can save it and print it or publish it to Mobi. You have other options for the Pro report. You have some readily available templates that you can start using. So I'm just I'm going back to creating another Pro report designer. I'm going to click create. I'm going to choose the table. And going to quick start, you have actually two options. You can generate all of the fields that are embedded within the report, or you can use the report wizard that includes some readily available templates. So you can choose the template that you want and start dragging and dropping the fields. So this is that simple. Another option is clicking generate all. So all of the fields will be populated within the report, and you can remove the fields that you do not want to use. So this basically covers the overview that I have planned for today.